Welcome to Brutally Anna, a podcast about finding love, losing love, and all the things we think about but don't talk about enough. I'm your host, Anna Kai, aka Maybe Both across social media, here to remind you that life can be beautiful even when it's freaking brutal. She's the founder of the cult favorite French skincare company Caudalie, and over the last 30 years, Mathilde Thomas, along with her partner in crime and in business, Bertrand, have been revolutionizing skincare as we know it by harnessing the power of grape seeds and committing to clean beauty before any of us were even aware that beauty could be dirty. I had the honor of spending a week in Bordeaux with Mathilde, Bertrand, and the rest of the Caudalie team at the site of the company's origins, and I'm so excited to discuss not only Caudalie's story, but Mathilde and Bertrand's story, because who we choose to love impacts not only our personal lives, but also our professional ones. Mathilde,
hey,
welcome to Brutally Anna. It was such an honor to be part of the
you.
Caudalie Heritage trip, and I'm so excited to have you on today. And I want to start off with this question, because what I found was so interesting about that trip was you are very much the face of the brand. Everybody knows that. But this is actually a family business, and your husband, Bertrand, is very involved. He's more behind the scenes. Can you tell me a little bit about how the two of you met in the early stages of your relationship?
Oh, yes, of course. I'm so happy to be here, Anna. We met back in the days in school, actually, right after high school. Back in 1990, and it was in Paris. He was parking his red motorbikes, and I was parking my green bike next to his motorbike, and the rest is history. So we met, we were kids.
We met on motorbikes on the street, literally just on the street.
We were parking, and we were going at the same school.
Oh, okay,
He was a classmate.
Oh, he was a classmate,
Anyway,
okay.
He was my college boyfriend.
And it lasted into college.
It lasted into college, and then we went into two different colleges.
Oh.
He was in Paris. I was in the south of France because I wanted to study the fragrance business, so I was in Nice. And that was tough. It was 3 years being abroad when you're young.
And you were so young.
I know.
When you first met him, was it sort of this instantaneous connection? Because that's so rare, first of all, to meet somebody randomly on the street and, you know, be next to them and then go into school. But then a lot of times these things don't work out long term. So what was that first connection like? How did you both know? Did he ask you on a date? Are you going on dates at 19?
Well, he asked me. No, he just told me I could help you for your math.
That was his pickup line? I could help you with
That was the
math?
pickup line of a 19-year-old. Well, and we didn't do much math.
Is that what we call it now?
Oh, no.
Actually, you know what's so funny? When I was in high school, my girlfriends and I used to all get together at each other's houses, and obviously our parents were around, and we would have a code phrase for talking about making out with boys because we didn't want our parents to know we were kissing boys, so we would call it doing homework. Oh, I did homework with Chad, or I did homework with Brad. So the fact that he was like, let's do math.
Homework.
You did homework?
With Bertrand. Yes, I did.
Did you know right away that you were attracted to him? Or was it more like, did he sort of work on you?
He was super cute, and then he worked on me. Well, he proposed many times to help me with my homework.
You're like, I'm actually good at my homework.
And it worked at the end. But no, we had many connections. First, he was American. His mother is American. I loved the U.S. at the time already, and we talked a lot about that. And he was super handsome. And we were attracted by each other. But we didn't know we were going to create Caudalie at the time. We were just working on our math.
You were just working on math. Did you date anyone prior to meeting him? Or was he your first boyfriend?
No, of course I did. I had a boyfriend for a year and a half before. Okay. It was quite serious. But it was in the French Alps, and then I moved to Paris.
Okay.
And when I met Bertrand, I forgot about my old boyfriend.
That's so funny. People ask me all the time whether long distance can affect a relationship. And my opinion is that if it's meant to be, long distance won't matter because if the distance kills you because there's no end date, then you probably weren't meant to be because you and Bertrand did long distance for 3 years.
Right, but that was not easy. It was a roller coaster, and we were not always together during those 3 years. And you can believe that when you're in college, you are partying a lot and meeting a lot of young people. So it was not easy, but we knew that if we could make it happen through the 3 years, it would be for the rest of our life. We knew that. It was a good test. Long distance is a good test.
It's a good test of
3 years was long.
Did you date any? So you guys broke up, you said, in between that 3 years, or you got back together and it was very volatile?
It was not easy. Let's put it this way.
That's fair. You know, and that's so nice to hear because so many of our listeners are probably in that volatile stage and many of them will make it. But I always think that the people who break up and get back together, like I don't personally believe in breaking up and getting back together, especially at my age, right? I'm 34. If I'm dating somebody my age or somebody who's 40 and they need to leave me to figure out whether they want to be with me, it's like, guys, we're all adults. We're just not supposed to be together. But I think at that age, when you're 19, 20, 21 years old, it's actually acceptable to break up with your college boyfriend because everybody's just trying to figure out who they are and what they actually want. So I think that's helpful to know. It's like, hey, it wasn't like we met on our motorbikes in high school and then we just rode off into the sunset and everything was easy. Like it was difficult. You had to make an active choice to want to be together.
Right. It was not easy.
Yeah.
It was far. We couldn't travel to see each other.
Right.
Very often. So it was not easy, but we knew that when we were not together, that we're not happy.
That you're not happy.
So we came back together.
And is that how you knew
Quite
he
soon.
was the one? Like, what was the moment for you? Was it one moment or was it just a feeling?
But during those 3 years, we were sad to not to be together.
Okay.
So that's when we discovered that we were probably meant to be.
You're just better together.
Right.
How did he propose?
We did that the reverse way.
Okay.
We actually created Caudalie right after college. And we knew that if we were going to create a company together and being 50-50 in this company, we would get married at one point. But so we created Caudalie, we filed Caudalie in 94 and he proposed a year after. And that was in Bordeaux.
Wow.
In the vines. Ouais.
On your family property?
On my family wine estate.
That's so beautiful.
You know, that we have, my family are the winemakers. My sister and her husband, they run and own the hotel in the middle of my family. And we created the cosmetic brand. So it's really a family business.
Right.
All in all.
And if you guys ever have the chance to go to Bordeaux, you absolutely need to visit this property. It's the most gorgeous property. I mean, I think in all of France, but I'm a little bit partial. It was also, let me just say, we went to Bordeaux and we stayed at her lovely property and then we went to Paris. And not that Paris isn't lovely, but it was hard to go to a Parisian resort after staying in Bordeaux and just being around all of that. And it's so majestic and there's so much nature and history there.
It's pretty.
That is so interesting that you guys created Caudalie before he proposed or got married. You basically did everything out of order. The way people say not to do it, they say, you know, the common knowledge is don't buy a house before you're married together. And you're like, yeah, I mean, or don't create a company with your partner before you get married. But you just knew.
No, I think we were not overthinking. We were super young and we just did it. At the end of our college, we did some market study on how to launch a new skincare brand, and we thought it was possible. So we went for it. It just happened.
You just didn't think. It's almost better because I feel like the takeaway from what you said is don't overthink things. Just do it and see what happens. Because I think so often, I know myself included, I want to be ready for everything I do. Like I want to feel 100% ready before I launch this or that or, you know, and it's sort of just like you're never going to be fully ready. So just dive in and see what happens.
That's our philosophy. Yeah, you just jump in the water and then you figure out how to swim. We were so young at 23. We wouldn't have done it later on in life because it's so complicated to launch a skincare brand in this highly competitive, fierce industry that if we had known what it was going to be, we would never have done it.
But it's good that you didn't know. And it's also a testament to the fact that maybe all of us should find that youth within us, not so much from a beauty perspective and the way that society says, oh, be young, right? But more so in spirit because we're less scared. I remember when I was a kid, and I don't ski, by the way. So let me just, and I know your parents are champion skiers. So I don't ski because I decided that I didn't like it enough to dedicate the amount of time it would take to get good at it. But my parents took me skiing a couple times when I was a kid. I was 10 years old. And I remember at that time, I was fearless. I had no fear. I just shot down the mountain, right? And then I didn't go again until I was 18. And I went with a boyfriend at the time, and I remember hating it. I was so scared. I couldn't get down the mountain because I had learned what fear was. And I think that's the idea. It's like the younger you are, the less you fear because you don't know what you're supposed to fear. And in a way, that's really good. Like if I had kept that kind of fearlessness when I was 10, I knew it was all in my head. You know, I was like, I know I can get down this mountain and enjoy it, but I was like, well, what if I fall? What if I do this? What if I do that? Natasha Richardson at that point had passed away from her ski accident. I was like thinking all these crazy things. So that's a really inspirational note that you just need to jump and not think about it too much.
True. It's true that when we told our friends and our family that we were going to launch a skincare company with grapeseed antioxidant extract, they were laughing at us.
Right.
We were 23 years old.
They were like, oh, how cute, right? Voilà. Yeah.
So Bertrand's family was like, no, you have a good diploma, go work for a big company, go work for L'Oreal, for Lauder, and then you can do that in 5 years, 10 years. The only person who told us you should do it now, otherwise you will never do it because then you'll have mortgage, you'll have a family, you'll have a house. It's going to be more difficult and you have a good salary, was my dad. He said, no, do it now.
Really?
And then later on he told us, I knew you had a chance out of 1 million of making it happen, but it was worth trying it.
Well, for certain, it was definitely worth trying it. You've been open about how you've always pursued a career in beauty. You were a perfumer first. You thought you were going to go into fragrances because you had a talent for that. There's a lot of rhetoric right now in the U.S. about women going back to the home where they, quote unquote, belong. Did you feel any pressure when you were younger not to pursue a career, or is that not a very French concept?
No, it's a French concept, but you met my mom, right?
Oh, yeah, that's true.
She's a workaholic.
Right.
And my two grandmothers were also workaholic. One was a teacher of French and philosophy and Greek and Latin, and the other one was a business entrepreneur. They created a supermarket with my grandfather. So I've been surrounded by powerful women who were working, who were financially independent. So it was a no-brainer.
It was a no-brainer. There was almost never an option to be a stay-at-home mom.
No, and I'm sure that my daughters will be like I am because I lead by example.
What is your whole opinion on stay-at-home mothers then? Do you think that is something that women can aspire to if that's what they want, or do you think they should not aspire to that?
I think it's very personal. I think if they like it, they should do it. But then what happens when it's an empty nest, when the kids are gone, when the husband has a very beautiful career and that is picking his brain and he's having so much fun? You have to have other passion. I think they should be careful.
Yes. Oh, I love that. They should be careful. Mm-hmm. My parents always told me that the two most important decisions in your life are what you do and who you choose to do it with. And for you, the what and the who are inextricably linked. Mm-hmm. You are business partners with your husband, and it's very much kind of a 50-50 thing. It's not like, anybody is sort of just on the sidelines. What are some of the challenges you've faced in being business partners with your husband?
First, we have the same parents because they told me the person you choose to spend your life with is extremely important. It's going to define your future. So I believe they think the same, and that's what I tell my kids. Working with your husband, it's tough, but My grandparents were working together. My parents are working together. My sister is working with her husband. So we've learned a few rules.
Okay.
So we fight all the time. We disagree. Yet we know how to work together. And what's important is that he has his own field and I have mine. We are very hands-on at Caudalie still. I'm still behind every single product development, all the content creation, all the research and development is about the organization of the company, making it happen, the strategy, all the important thing, making sure that we have money in the company. Basically, I spend the money and he makes the money.
That's how it always works, right?
On his field, he has the last word. He has the decision. And on my field, I do. And then, of course, I listen to him because if I launch a product and the field team is not behind me and Bertrand works with the field team, that's going to be a problem. So I need to make sure that we're on the same bandwagon.
I love that you said, first of all, we fight all the time, but we know how to fight because I think that's so important. I fight with my husband all the time. And it's not a contentious relationship, but we fight about things in order to work it out. And I've actually found, looking at my peers, that the ones who don't fight because they don't feel like they can bring up something are the relationships that are the most fragile. Right. Because my husband and I were in it, and we're in it together. We're not business partners, but there is stuff we disagree on, big things, sometimes finances and where we should live and all of those things. But at the end of the day, we're in the same boat together and we're not getting out of it, right? So what's there a moment, I'm curious, or a pivotal decision that you can remember in Caudalie's very long history now where you and Bertrand vehemently disagreed? And how do you move past that?
It's a tough one because I would say it's minor disagreement all the time more than a big disagreement once.
Right, it's bickering. That's all married couples.
Right. So, no, as I told you, I decide as far as product launching, product development, research and development, and he decides for everything that is the field, the finance, the strategy of the company. So we respect the other for that. But there was no major disagreement yet. Knock on wood.
Was there something he just, on a minor level, like he didn't agree with some packaging? Or was there something like that you were like, no, I really think that this should be the way this looks? And he was like, no, I don't. And then it worked out and you were like, ha, told you, because women are always right. I'm joking.
But this one.
Okay.
This beauty elixir is a strange product. You can see that you have essential oil floating at the surface. You have to shake it. It has a very strong scent. So when I told him I'm going to launch that, he had no idea what I was talking about. He was a bit clueless. He didn't like the scent of it. He didn't understand the set makeup, prep makeup, glow, minimize the pores. So he was not happy about it.
This is one of your best sellers.
I know.
This is so viral.
But that was back in 1996. It was not the bestseller at the time. And he was very worried.
He was very worried.
By this it's a strange, unique product.
It is. There's nothing like it, which I love. And that's why people love it. It's so unique.
If I had done market study on that product, I would never have launched this product because it's very strange.
You're blowing my mind right now. That's amazing. Don't listen to the experts. Just trust your gut. I mean, that's how you've sort of lived your whole life.
But it helped me because now Bertrand trusts me when I want to launch a product.
You just point to the beauty elixir and you just say, you don't even have to say shut up anymore. Just be like, that's amazing. So building a business usually requires some pretty lean days in the beginning before anyone's making any money. How did you and Bertrand handle your finances in the beginning of your marriage and your business?
First, we were super young, so we didn't need much. We were living in my parents' apartment in Paris. I remember his grandparents were giving Bertrand's money because we had no money. And we made sure that we were not losing money the first 2 years of Caudalie. We were not making money, but we were not losing money.
So you were breaking even for 2 years?
No, wait. We were breaking even after year 2, but we were not losing too much money.
Okay.
Well, sorry.
You were losing money for 2 years. Not a ton, but you were losing money. And then you broke even after 2 years.
Yes.
I just want to sit on that point for a while because so many people quit because it's not happening right away. It took you 2 years just to break even. So for anybody who wants to start a business, think about that. Like you just believed in this business so much that you were like, we're not going to make any money. We're going to lose money for 2 years. And then 2 years you finally broke even, but you're still not profitable.
No, it took us 30 years, Anna. It's long. It's a long process. It's true that when you start a business, you have to be patient. You shouldn't spend too much money because it's hard to make money selling skincare that costs $30 a piece. It's not easy. And you should always go on the field and make sure that you know how to sell your product and you really keep your feet on the ground. It's very important.
And it's
you have
so
to be
interesting
hands-on.
because you are now at a point where you could be very hands-off, but you are still very hands-on. Your team's very small, which you wouldn't think, given the recognition and the mass appeal of Caudalie, you would think, oh, they're owned by somebody at this point, but you are still privately owned.
We're privately owned, belongs to my husband and I 50-50. So that's a way of getting along also.
That's a way of keeping the marriage intact.
No, but it's true that we fight more about the kids than about the company now.
Interesting.
Well, the kids, it's complicated.
Why is it complicated? What are the big disagreements about your children?
Because the mother, they spoil the kids too much. More than the father, always.
Okay, so you're the good cop, he's the bad cop, because there's always one. I think when we have kids, I'm going to be the disciplinarian and my husband's going to be the softie. Because I see that we have a dog right now, and I'm the one that keeps her. She listens to me. She knows when I tell her to sit, she sits. When my husband tells her to sit, she's like, whatever, Dad, you don't care. So there's always one. So in your partnership, if they want something, they go to mom first. They don't go to dad first.
They go to mom first, of course. and it's very important that both parents agree on the dog, on the kids, on whatever. And we are strong against this team.
So you have 3 children, and 2 of which are daughters, right?
Yes.
What advice do you have for them as they are now in dating age, approaching dating age? What's your advice on how to handle this pretty volatile part of their life? And things are very different now for people dating than they were for you 30 years ago. I mean, 30 years ago, the way you met was kind of the only way you could meet. Maybe not necessarily on a motorbike, but in person and who you're in your social circle with.
True. Right. Now you have dating apps.
Yes.
It's very different. So my daughters, one of them has a boyfriend and it's kind of serious. So we'll see. She met him at school. So maybe we're putting an indirect pressure on them, having met so early with my husband. I tell them that they should be independent. That's very important, that they should be passionate about what they do in life, and then that the person they're going to meet is extremely important. It's their life partner. And it should be someone that really makes the best out of them and support them, and is someone that is just a great person.
Right.
That is balanced, that's well in his head. It's super important.
Well in his head. Oh my gosh. I feel like all of us are unwell in the head right now. Do you think, so your children are still young and your one of your daughters has a boyfriend, but do you think you'd be the type of parent where if one of your kids was dating somebody that you did not think was treating them well or you didn't like, would you say something? Because here's what my parents did when I was in my 20s.
It's a tough question.
I dated a lot of people that were not great to me, right? And my parents never really cared about much other than the fact that they just wanted to make sure that the person was good to me and a supportive partner and everything. But they never said anything while I was with them. It was only after I broke up with my exes would they be like, yeah, we never liked him anyways, and this is why we didn't like him. And they would come up with all these details about stuff they had said, but they never said it to me at the time because they said we never wanted to influence you. So what do you think you would do if one of your children was dating somebody that you were like, this is horrible? Would you say something?
Plus, I don't think you would have listened to your parents anyway.
That is so true.
So it's a very tough question.
Yeah.
I think they would see that we don't like the person. They would see because I'm sure you could see at the time that they were not huge fan of your boyfriend.
Yeah.
I don't think I would say it blankly, directly to their face. They wouldn't listen anyway.
That's fair. What about Bertrand? Because he's a little bit more strict and more of a disciplinarian. Do you think he would, especially he's the dad of two daughters, and I'm sure, to an extent, it's like he probably feels very protective over them. If they brought a guy in and he was like, no, what would he do you think? Have you talked about that?
Of course. Right now, he loves the boyfriend. So far, so good.
Good. On the record. Don't screw that up. All right.
No, but in the past, there have been some questionable boyfriends. What did he do? He did nothing. No, it broke out naturally.
Okay.
It didn't work out.
Okay. So you were all grateful for that.
Okay.
And I think, too, if you raised your children with the right values and the same principles that you guys live by, eventually they end up picking people that will fit into your family. Chinese people have this phrase, and it doesn't translate very beautifully into English, as most translations don't. But if you and a person are not part of the same family, like fate, you will not walk through the same door together. It's only the people that are meant to walk through the same door together will you walk through together. And that's what I feel like with my husband, because I'm the daughter of immigrants. And despite the fact that I was born and raised in the U.S., I am very Chinese in a lot of my values because I was raised by Chinese immigrants. And I think for a long time in my 20s, it didn't work out with a lot of men because they were too American in culture. And
Sure.
Chinese culture is just different than American culture. And it's not to say either one is wrong or right. It's just very different. And my husband, we always joke, he's like a hard-boiled egg, white on the outside, yellow on the inside. He's so culturally Chinese with so many things that it could have only worked out with him. And he fits in so well with my family. COVID, how we were all quarantined for 4 months.
Mm-hmm.
We were living in New York at the time in a tiny one-bedroom apartment, and I knew about COVID in January before anybody else did because my family is in China, and they were like, this is going to be really bad. So I told my then boyfriend at the time, I said, we need to go back to Pennsylvania to my parents' house in what you would call the countryside, what we would call the suburbs. I was like, we're going to go and move in with them for a couple months. And he was like, that's crazy. I can't leave work for a couple months. I can't work from home. And we did. March 14th, when the city shut down, we left. And he lived with my parents in their house for 4 months full time. And it was great. And people are always like, oh my God, how could you live with your in-laws for that long? Was it crazy? It wasn't. They're great. And they're super relaxed and they stay out of our way and we stay out of theirs and we're together when we want to be. And I don't think that could have worked out with anybody else. I mean, think about living with your in-laws in the same house for 4 months in your 30s. I know.
Very impressed.
I know. It's like, and it was actually so great because he got to know them on a level that I don't think would have happened if he didn't have that time with them, because there is that cultural barrier. So you're not going to probably get to know each other in the same way over a dinner as you would as if everybody was the same culture and everybody's first language was English, right? So it was actually great, but thinking about it now, I'm like, I could have only married him. And I'm sure your children will end up with men and women who just feel like they were destined to be in your family.
No, you're right. You know that we lived in China. We lived in New York and we lived in Hong Kong with my family.
I remember you lived in Hong Kong.
Right, so I completely understand what you say about feeling too Chinese and dating two American guys.
Yeah.
And yes, I'm afraid because my daughter, number 3, she wants to study in the U.S. And I'm wondering if she marries an American, is it going to work? We're French. It's different culture.
It's very
She'll
different.
need an American who has a passport, who has been traveling, who wants to learn French. And it's scary.
I know, because culture, and you don't think about it when you're young. When I was in my early 20s, I was like, I'm American. I was born and raised here. I mean, what do you mean cultural differences? And as you get older, you realize that if you have immigrant parents or any sort of different culture, it is so different. And, with French culture, Chinese culture, there's a lot, especially you guys, we are so rooted in the family. We don't operate as a solo person. And I think in general, the people that I was dating prior to my husband, they were almost independent to a fault. You want to be independent, but also at the end of the day, you have to realize your family is the most important thing. And everything I do is like with my family. We came here together. You know, I would go to work with my mom as a kid because she couldn't afford a babysitter. So I would go with her when she watched other kids, and we just did everything together. And so now we're still that family unit. And I think that was hard for a lot of my exes to understand, because they're like, you're an adult. Why do you want to see your parents this much? Like, why are you asking their opinion on all these things? Who cares, right? Like, I call my parents once a month and we check in, and it's almost like a friendship at that point. Sure. So I completely understand. But maybe your daughter will meet somebody who is French on the inside and American on the outside.
I need that. That's important for me. Right.
But especially because she wants to go to school in New York. Do we know?
I don't know.
Do you know?
There's plenty of school on the East Coast. So we'll see.
It's somewhere easy to, I would say if she ends up going to a school in New York, it is a very diverse and metropolitan city. She will meet somebody. And, you know, I think she'll figure it out, because she'll figure out who she is at the end of the day. And she's probably more French than she thinks she is right now, right?
She is French.
So your Veno Perfect serum, can you hold that up? This is my favorite product in the whole world. I go through so many bottles of this. It's to correct dark spots, and it's a viral favorite. I mean, it's so good. And you launched the product, I believe, in 2005, correct?
It's going to be 20th anniversary next year.
Exactly. No one bought it at first, you said, because nobody was talking about dark spots in 2005. It was all about tanning, looking darker.
Right.
And it wasn't profitable for a long time. So how did you maintain your belief in that product? How did you know, I need to keep making this even though it's not making me any money?
It was complicated. We discovered this molecule because it was an ancient tradition. When people are pruning the vine is leaking sap, and women working in the vineyard would rub the sap on their face to erase the freckles. So it really was working on brightening the skin complexion, on evening the skin complexion. So this is how we isolated this new molecule that we were the first one to use in the beauty industry. But then the anti-dark spot category was not even existing in Europe at the time. Only in Asia people were caring about, they were calling it whitening product at the time. And in the US, nobody cared at the time. So I told my sales team, okay, I have this product. It works extremely well. It's 62 times more effective than vitamin C to brighten all kind of dark spots. And they didn't know what to do with it. So they scratched their head, because the sales rep are very creative. And they say, okay, people like to tan in Europe. It's going to be the serum of the summer. You're going to put that underneath your sunscreen, so you'll have a beautiful suntan with no dark spot. So that was their first creative idea. And it still is the serum of the summer. And then they said a lot of French women smoke too much, so they have a gray complexion. And we noticed that this was giving a more pink complexion. So that was the second way of selling it.
Interesting. I did notice, by the way, when I went to Paris, that a lot of French women smoke.
Too much.
I know.
Too much.
I was shocked because people don't really smoke anymore in the
it's
US.
Over.
I know. It's like so over. And when I was just in Paris again a couple months ago, I was like, oh my God, the amount of people who smoke is
crazy.
Wild. But then you think about France is one of the skincare capitals of the world. So I don't know how that goes hand in hand. Like, how do you have a nation where all the women have such great skin and are so focused on skincare, but then they also smoke?
Well, they smoke. I mean, French girls smoke too much to skip dessert or to be skinny. That's not good. We don't want that. But that's why they were using this product to have a nice complexion. So it became, I remember we launched it in 2005 and the category started in 2008. So we invented this anti-dark spot category in the market in Europe.
That's wild.
What?
And I think this story is inspirational on so many levels because it shows us all how sometimes it's not necessarily that we have a bad idea. It's just that the timing of the idea is not right. Because if you had taken this to market and for the first 3 years it didn't really sell, you would have been like, okay, well, that's not a good product. We're just going to stop making it, right? And it's one of your best sellers now.
We knew it was a great product. So it was doing immediately well in Asia.
Right.
And in the America and in Europe, nobody really cared. So it's really the sales rep who helped me making it the summer serum.
Summer serum. That's a really clever way of marketing it in the sense that it's not like, oh, you know, people don't want it to look lighter in the summer. No. They want to look darker. But it's like, oh, hey, you want to look darker, but you also want to look even. So that was a great way.
That was smart.
That was very smart. So that's, when did it start to take off in America and in Europe?
It's quite recent. We soon became number one of the category because there was nobody else. But then in the US, we've been successful, I would say, maybe for the past 8 years on this serum.
Okay.
And now it's the anti-dark spot authority because it's funny because at one point in the Sephora, it was doing well on the Gen Z because of acne scar.
Yes. Hyperpigmentation.
Exactly. Hyperpigmentation. In Europe, it was because of sunspot. In Asia, it was because it was evening the whole complexion. So it was for different reasons that it was doing well. And dark spots have become a big topic in the past 10 years.
It is now. It is one of the major concerns of a lot of people with skin issues. And for me, too, especially Asian women, I have a lot of hyperpigmentation whenever I have acne scars, hormonal scars. So that's always been an issue for me. It's just we never had a way to solve it. So I just wore more makeup. But
I mean, this one is unbelievable because it's sun-safe, pregnancy-safe. It works on melasma. It works on every single dark spot.
So what advice do you have for women who are maybe in that position that you were in when you first launched Veno Perfect and it's not selling and it's not working, and they're trying to figure out if they should continue on with an idea that they feel very passionate about, but maybe the world doesn't see it yet? How do you maintain that faith within yourself?
First, you need to be sure that the product is exceptional. It works. That it's a skin problem solver. Then you need to pivot. We all learn how to pivot during COVID in a way or another. And we learn how to pivot with this one, saying, hey, put it underneath your sunscreen. You'll have a beautiful suntan with no brown spot. So be creative, but hang on to it if you know you have something special, unique.
And you really knew, because you almost had a test market in Asia first, because you were like, this is selling so well in Asia. We know it's a good product. It's just people need to almost be educated on the fact that it's a good product in the US and in Europe.
And we tested it versus vitamin C, who is the gold standard in brightening, and we were 62 times more effective with no side effects. So we knew we had something.
And it lasts forever, too. It's a tiny bottle, and it's the amount of, I mean, I go through it like for, in 25 seconds. And what's great is that your team always sends me a bottle as soon as I run out. I don't know how they know. It's a little bit creepy, but I feel like every time I run out of one, there's one in the mail, usually with my name on it. And I'm like, are you in my house right now? I don't hate it. What are some products that have failed in development? Have there been any products that you have worked on for a long time that you were like so sure about, and then you just realized this is just not going to work out?
When we launched our first sunscreen in Europe, we had a great technology. We could encapsulate the filters in like mini glass balls. So it was perfect because you don't want the filter that are chemical to penetrate within the skin. We wanted it to be super clean, to stay at the surface so they can protect you versus UVA, UVB. The idea was wonderful, but when we released the product on the market, everybody was peeling.
Oh, God.
It was rubbing off your face. It was
it pilling and everything? Like kind of, it didn't.
Rubbing off. The cream would not stay at the surface of the skin. Yes. It was this technology never worked out at the end. So we found another one that is really good, and now we are very clean for skin and very clean for the planet. But
it stays on your face.
Yes.
Actually, sunscreens are tough because I try a lot of sunscreens, and there are some that I'm sent that for some reason they don't mix well with my makeup. And maybe if it's just the sunscreen on, it's fine. But then as soon as I put on any bronzer or anything, it starts to interact with the sunscreen. So, and yeah, that's really tough because you can't predict what other people are going to put on top of the sunscreen. So you have to really formulate something that works for every product out there.
Now, sunscreen is complicated. It has to be FDA approved. But now we have a fantastic sunscreen, 100% mineral, really good. That mattifies the skin. Perfect makeup base. It's great.
It is wonderful. I can attest to that. If we could only pick 4 Caudalie products to use in a skincare routine, which ones would they be? Because here's the thing. I love my 20-step skincare routine, but let's be real, not all of us have time for that every night. Even me, even somebody who pretty much does this for a living, and I try products for a living. There are some nights where I'm like, I can pick one serum and a cream and I need to go to bed.
I agree. At night, we don't have time. So I would pick only one cleanser. It would be this one. It's the cleansing oil, 100% natural. Love this product. And it removes every single makeup, even the waterproof. And it has castor oil that make your lashes and eyebrow grow. And it smells almond oil. It's beautiful. So you put it on a dry skin, then you activate it with water and you rinse it with a lot of water.
This is I have a travel size of this, which, really by the way, I may need a refill on, Christine.
You know what? Take this one. And you unscrew it and you refill the little one.
Oh, you're right. But I like it when it comes in the bottle. I'm just like, it's also just easier for me to recognize because now I recognize this mini bottle in my bag. But this and then the foaming cleanser, those are my 2 cleansers that I bring with me to travel. They're so great. The sizes are amazing. Thank you for making a travel size because it always kills me when I have a product that I love and I can't bring it with me because it's just you can't bring it on your check or carry-on luggage. So this is very good. Okay, so that
you clean
at night.
Then you prep your skin with my favorite beauty elixir that you shake, and it's going to minimize your pore, to smooth your feelers. I use it like a toner.
Love that.
Step number 2, then you have to put a serum. And this one is the most popular Caudalie serum, the one that brightens, lightens, evens the complexion. Love it. Don't forget your neck and décolleté, like your French face.
Your French face is that? I always forget
and the back of your hand.
Yes, I forget that too. I remember the neck, but I forget that this part too, and the hands. Okay.
And premier cru, la crème riche, would be the moisturizer I would bring on a deserted island because it's all in one and done. It works with all the Caudalie technology, the Harvard patent, the anti-dark spot patent, the antioxidant. It's all in one, so I love it. And then eye contour is important. Yes. And this one I love because you can massage it. It's cold. It's going to decongest. And also, for the daytime, it has 10% makeup, so it enhances the eye contour.
Interesting. I knew my eyes looked better after trying it, but I just assumed it was because I felt better. I didn't realize that's why it feels like it's a little brighter or something.
It is.
I always thought it was just in my mind because sometimes you're like, oh, I put on eye cream. Oh, interesting.
So now you can see it with the light. And this one has ingredients that are anti-puffiness, but also anti-dark circles. So same, it does it all. So those will be my...
That's simple. That's doable. That is doable.
That's 1 minute.
In a very American work hard, play hard culture, I know it's very difficult for women to find balance, when it feels like everything needs to be 1,000%. Your family needs you 1,000%. Your job needs you 1,000%. What gives on the days when you just can't be everywhere at once? How do you manage that? Because you do have to make sacrifices on both ends.
Right. First, I think American women put so much pressure on themselves. You want to be so perfect. No, just relax. You're already fantastic as you are, guys. It's a question of balance. You cannot go full way in a way. You have to balance your work life, your love life, your family life, your personal life. And it's a question of agenda and organization. So make sure that you keep time for yourself. Make sure that you keep time for your loved one. You keep time for your family and that you have a job that you are passionate about and that you love.
What do you do for yourself these days? Because I think so many women have time for their jobs, they have time for their families, but they don't have time for themselves outside of those two arenas. So what do you do now? I mean, it could be simple, like
I do a lot of sport. I do yoga. I swim whenever I can. I bike all the time. I read a lot. I watch series. So, simple things.
you make time for yourself. That's great.
It's important.
I mean, one of my favorite things you've ever said in an interview was, you do not have to suffer to be beautiful. And this is a great story because I was like, I just need to be more French. Like, I don't need to be American. I just need to be French because you have it figured out. Because you said that the first time you ever saw somebody eating a protein bar for lunch was when you first came to the U.S., and you were saying that's crazy. Like, the French would never think about doing that. Like, these women were eating protein bars, and that's it at lunch to try and stay thin. And your whole argument, correct me if I'm wrong here, was that you can enjoy yourself while also being beautiful. You can eat good food and enjoy your food, but also not gain 1,000 pounds. How do we do that? How do we enjoy our lives, but also, try to maintain our weight and maintain enough energy or is it just the food here? Because the food is better in France.
The food is better in France. The food is better in China. The food is
less genetically modified.
Complicated in the US.
Yeah.
So that's why we started, when we were living here, we started to cook with my husband because we were so disappointed in every way. The protein bar, I was shocked. We would never do that in France. First, you sit down for lunch, you sit down for dinner with your family or with your friends. It's a moment of sharing, and you have to be conscious about what you're eating. If you're eating a protein bar, you'll forget it, and then you'll be hungry again like 10 minutes after. So, no, it's important to enjoy life.
What's a normal French lunch?
Just like here, probably vegetables, chicken, protein, but cooked in a good way.
Right. People ask me, what was your favorite thing that you ate on that Caudalie trip?
Alors, tell me.
And my favorite thing actually were the strawberries you guys left in our room when we first arrived. I have never tasted a strawberry that sweet before. Also, it was tiny. I'd never seen a strawberry that small, because it hasn't been genetically modified to be a freakazoid of strawberries. But my mind was blown. I called my husband. I was like, this strawberry makes me want to cry. And everything else was so delicious. I mean, you guys really treated us so well. You took us to that Michelin-starred restaurant on your property, but I just couldn't get over this strawberry.
They were probably strawberry from the garden.
Yes, I'm sure they were.
That makes a big difference.
It was so sweet. And I was like, do I really have to go back to the U.S. and buy strawberries there? I didn't know fruit could taste that sweet. And so it's so interesting because it just goes to show how much crap is in our food here.
Right. It takes us a lot of time with my husband to figure out where to buy the best fruits, the best vegetables. Here in New York, but also in France, you have good things, but you just need to know where to source them.
Right. You have to do a little bit more work.
Oui.
So my last question is, you have obviously built such a beautiful life and career, and from the outside, everyone's looking at you like, I would want to be Mathilde, right? But I'm sure you've had many moments of doubt, many moments of questioning. What is the piece of advice that you have to women that got you through your darkest days with Caudalie? Maybe you were not in a great place with Bertrand. What did you tell yourself?
If you strongly believe that you have a revolutionary product, which I thought I had at the time, you should never let go. And it's very important. You're going to climb the Mount Everest. You look once at the summit, but then you have to look at Camp Base 1, Camp Base 2. Don't look too high when you're going up the mountain. It's very important that you cut the mountain you break it into pieces that are achievable. Otherwise, it's going to be too hard. and you're going to let go.
That's beautiful. I love that metaphor. That is the most inspirational note to end on. Thank you so much for being here. Can you tell everybody where they can find you?
Oh, thank you. Well, they can follow me on my personal Instagram, Mathilde Thomas, on my LinkedIn. But if you want to see what the team is doing, Caudalie US is the best on Insta.
Amen. I'll second that.
Thank
you
you
again.
Thank you so much, Anna.